This is the Ink Pulp Podcast.
Welcome back to the Ink Pulp Podcast. It's been a morning already, so I'm just centering myself. Today, we're gonna finally. Well, I'm not sure if we're gonna finish, but we're gonna get close. Today, we're adding the opaques, and for the opaques, I like to use Holbein acrylic gouache. It's gouache in the sense that it dries with a matte finish and it's opaque as hell, but it's acrylic in the sense that it dries waterproof, because normal gouache will always be reactivated with water, just like watercolor. This will not, and I love this stuff. So we're going to deal with the primary lighting on one side and the reflective light on the other side. I'll get to the techniques as we do that. The colors I'm using today, leaf green, this is that acid. I mean, it's not really, in and of itself, it's just a light green. But against the colors I'm working with, it's going to really become that electric acid that I love. Cerulean blue. This is a nice light blue. I love cerulean blue. I love the impressionist use of it. So many painters use this so well against muted colors, and it really is beautiful. I use it against luminous colors. But for Batman, for the cowl, this is the light I'm going to use. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of Naples yellow, which is not white. It's a very, very, very light yellow. Goes back to the Renaissance. And I'm up in this region, up in here, where you can see there's more yellow coming through the blue, is where I'll mix this. And as we get down into here, it'll be just this with a little bit of titanium white. Now, the leaf green, the electric acid green, when I'm going to put it down everywhere on the reflective light side, but the areas where I really need it to pop up, I'm going to add a little bit of titanium white to it to really lighten it up. And for the skin, for Batman's flesh, Naples yellow should be good in and of itself. We're not going to do a ton of... What I don't want to do is a ton of rendering on this side. I want the extreme light to be on this side. So we want to light the left side of this up just a little bit, and we want to really light up the other side. As far as the eyes go, we're thinking like white, of course, but I'm not going to use pure white. I'm going to take this cerulean blue and tint the hell out of it. Tinting means adding white to it. So we'll get there. Let me show you some of what we're going to be using. This right here is called a paper palette. It's basically a wax-coated paper that you can mix your acrylics on, and because it's wax, it doesn't absorb the moisture, so that it dries slower on there, and you can just tear off a sheet and toss it when you're done. So, and then of course I've got my little tray with just, the only thing I need today is water. So that's all we'll be using there for that today. So let's address the cowl first. So the cowl, I like to lay down my two colors. We're not going to need a ton. Get a little bit of cerulean blue. That's actually a lot of cerulean blue, but it's okay. And like I said, we're going to work with this Naples yellow up in the area. And as I'm looking at this area of Batman, I'm thinking the cerulean blue in and of itself won't be light enough, so I might need to add a little titanium white to it as well. We'll tint the blue, then add the yellow. Okay? Should be easy enough to pull off. The other thing about that makes this gouache-like is it dries darker than what you see when it's wet. And when you lay it down, you'll see it dry darker, which is kind of nice because it just kind of lays into the painting better. So it's good to make it look like, oh, that's a little bit too light, because then when it dries, you're right in that sweet spot. So the first thing I'm going to do, I guess we'll do this on camera, is let me make a little bit of a tint of the cerulean blue. So I pick up some there, I pick up some white, and we're just going to start mixing. And I want to make sure I'm getting lighter than what I see up here, and we're getting that. Okay. So with that being said, I like to pull as much of the paint out of the brush. Then I get a good rinse because I need my point. And let's see if this will be good enough for what we're going to do here. Okay. Alright, so I just get some blue on my brush. And as we get down into here, it looks good. And you see it looks a little bit too light right now. But like I said, it'll dry a little darker. And the last thing we're going to do, which will probably be the last video, is clean up the pencil work a little bit. And so this feathering in here that I'm leaving out, I'll take care of. Alright, that looks good. It's going to dry a little bit darker, which I like the sound of. And painting like this does really help your inking skills when you ink with a brush, so it's a good little resource to have. Okay. In these dark areas, when you get in there with the gouache, it really comes to life, and I love that. There we go. Now I'm going to start adding the Naples yellow because you can see it's getting a little greener up in here. So let's mix that, and we should get a bit of a greenish version of this color, which will be nice. There we go. There we go. Slightly green, which is just what we wanted, right? If I were to go in there with just blue, I just worry that it would separate too much from the work we've done. This is a bit of a new approach for me. So what I'm going to do is just think about where I'm lighting up some areas. And hopefully the contrast between this green and the blue that's down will just look like light, like a yellowish light on everything, which is exactly what we want it to look like. These are really nice creamy paints, but when you get to the like white, it gets a little bit chalky, which is a little harder to work with, but not terrible. Just requires a little more patience. So I definitely want to get some down in here, some in there, some along here. There we go. And see, it's laying in there really nicely as it dries. There we go. All right, and I want to get the nose here too. Let's do that. This is a really good space for a hot spot of opaque light coming in. Really nice. Oh, that looks great. All right, things are working out for me there. All right, that looks good for the main area. Here's what I'm also going to do. I'm going to take a little bit of this green and kind of hit some highlights in the areas where I have just the blue and white, because I think that'll look good. It'll just look like that light's hitting it in certain spots, just like that. And maybe I'll carry a little bit of it into the folds. There. Just kind of brings it together a little bit. That's perfect. All right, let's move on. So now we're going to do the skin, which I'm just going to use this Naples yellow. I think alone it'll be light enough to do what I need it to do. So let's hope that's the case. I need to get all this blue out of my brush. I see there's some still in there. I don't want that. There we go. Here we go. All right, cool. All right, let me, sorry, I'm off camera. I'm mixing colors. I should have done that on camera. In this area, now remember, it's going to dry a little bit darker than you lay it down, so it looks pretty dark now. I mean, it looks pretty light now, but it's going to dry a little bit darker. Okay. And if we do our job right, it's just going to feel like things are lighting up really well. And you can thin the paints down a bit if you want to feel like, if you want them to lay in even more. So you're using them semi-transparently, even though it's not really a transparent medium, it can work like that a little bit. There we go. Lights up Batman really well. I can see on his mouth, the paint was a little thin here, so I'm going to add some more opaque there. That's just a spot where I feel like it really needs that opaque punch against that shadow. Perfect. Okay, maybe a little bit more down here. It's getting a little thin there. I mean, it's kind of forgiving that it dries a little darker, because then gives you the opportunity to go in and relight it. All right, so looks to me like that part is done. And don't worry, we're going to clean up some of the line work with the pencil, which will be great. So don't worry about that. Now on the other side of things, we're going to work with this leaf green. So I like to turn my palette around so I don't mix these colors together. Okay, here's that leaf green, which will be great. Let's go in and get that going. All right, I just like to make the paint that way. All right, now watch what happens here. This is where that electric acid comes into play. I want to leave some of that bamboo green around the edges of this, so I'm trying to get back to the point of my brush. Just like that. So, okay, cool. We're lighting up now. Things are lighting up. I'm trying to learn to let my brush strokes show a little bit. I know you're not seeing it here, but you know, there some painters love to have their brush strokes show. I'm working a little more graphic shape based, which is how I draw, so it makes sense. But I'm finding some areas in my painting where I can be a little bit more expressive and let some brush strokes show, which I think is great. I really enjoy that. It just adds another layer to my paintings. I really feel like my work is very much about almost contradictory theories, cartooning and academic Renaissance drawing, stuff like that. I love having those two kind of opposing ideas work together, because I'm a Gemini, damn it. So you can feel that green lighting up, and when we add the white, you're going to see it really come to life. Really, really big. It's always a little bit of a dance to have the right level of moisture in your brush along with the right level of paint in your brush. It's with these acrylic washes, it's a little bit finicky at times. Okay. There we go. Look at that acid green. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's what I love. Now I got to get that nose. That's going to be real important. And then we're just going to add a little bit of white to this, and we'll be done for that bit. I'm going to cover up a little bit of the line work there. I'm going to come back. Don't worry. Booyah. All right, so while that's drying, I just want to make sure that's dry before I really hit. Well, actually, there's one area I see I need to kind of finesse right in here. I didn't get a good stroke in there. There we go. All right, so there we go. I can see one thing I want to do is I want to go back to that Naples yellow, get a little bit. I just want to hit, there's a little bit of light catching on this side, on the corner of his mouth. Wow, that's perfect. There was one more thing I was thinking about hitting. Oh, I know what it was. I want to get some just pure cerulean blue. I want to get that little bit. Now that there's no white in this, so it's probably going to darken up a little bit, which is okay. There. Okay. And I'll clean that up with the pencil for sure. And I can see over here, it's a little wet and a little thin in some areas. Yeah, it's really way too wet. So we're probably going to have to let that dry and maybe come back to that next time. And you don't want to go over this paint at all with the pencil when it's wet. That's key. Okay. All right, just taking inventory here. I need that to dry, so let's do this. Let's call it for today. Actually, one little thing I think would look really great. If I mix a little bit of white with cerulean, tint that again, just a touch, just a little bit. I can get a little bit of light catching right here. Like that'll be nice. Okay, let's call it there for today because I gotta let this dry. We'll come back, we'll hit the leaf green and the whites next time, and then we'll do the colored pencil stuff. So yeah, if you're enjoying this, let me know how it's going for you. I hope you're following along with me and doing a painting of your own, and let me know in the comments below. And also in the link below is INKPULPinstruction.com, where what I'm giving you here is just a little sample of what I do, and what I do on InkPulp Instruction is much deeper, thorough, better educational experience for not just the painting techniques, but all comic book techniques, and not just with me, but with a bunch of badass comic book artists. So check it out. Sign up for my newsletter. Peace.
Comics, hip hop, life.